Well, Dr. Hilgers, the first thing I'd like to ask you about is, first of all, is just the Pope Paul VI Institute. And I know that you founded this some time ago. Could you tell us a little bit about why you founded it and kind of where the Institute is today?
Well, I was a medical student in 1968 when Pope Paul VI issued Humanae Vitae, which was the instruction on contraception and human life in general, abortion issues such as that. And of course it was met with large dissent, organized dissent, I might point out. And I got a hold of a copy of it, though I wanted to read it because I just thought maybe there might be something there that I had missed. And it was. I mean, it's a beautiful document, and it teaches a lot of things that you never see in the newspapers or on television. So I did my first research project actually in 1968 when I was a senior in medical school. Then I went away to do some advanced training in obstetrics and gynecology and ended up at St. Louis University School of Medicine, where we established a research program. And then moved that eventually to Creighton University School of Medicine here in Omaha. In 1978, when Pope Paul VI died, my wife and I turned to each other, because by this time we were big fans of Pope Paul VI and Humanae Vitae. And at the end of the encyclical letter, he has a list of pastoral directives, which I've always thought it may be the most neglected of the whole encyclical letter in some ways. And we just turned to each other and said we're going to build an institute in his honor. And so it took us a few years. It was 1985 when we actually opened the institute, but we were well on our way to with our ongoing research and investigation into natural family planning systems. So it made sense, and it frankly has been the answer from a scientific point of view for us, because up until the time we opened the institute, we weren't on anybody's list of priorities. And so administratively, we could put all of this at the top of the list, and we could move forward a lot quicker. So it was a really good move. And we're very happy about it up to this day even.
Well, and can you tell me a little bit now, obviously as a medical doctor and as a man of faith, and you read Humanae Vitae and it made a big impression on you. The original spark when you read it, was it more from a man of faith or a man of science, or were they just integrated from the start?
Well, it probably was a little bit of both. I had read a little bit about the natural family planning systems. I knew there were systems that were workable and could work and had a scientific foundation to them. I thought the church was going to change their position, but I was uneducated and ignorant at the time. I hadn't thought a lot about it. Just I was in my fraternity house, and that's kind of the position. But when it came out, I thought I'd had positive experiences with the church in the past, and I felt like at least deserved to look at it. And so when I went up to the Newman Club chaplain at the University of Minnesota, I asked him where I could get a copy of this. He said, "What do you want to read that kind of trash for?" So that was my entree to Humanae Vitae. But it kind of gave me more stick to it as to want to get it and read it. And it's a very simple document. It's not complicated. It's and actually, if you buy into the opening paragraphs up to about 12 or 13, something like that, which is really the teaching of the church on marriage and family, there isn't any other conclusion they could come to. Because if you ask yourself, as an obstetrician gynecologist, would I want my wife to be on birth control pills? The answer is no. So if I wouldn't put my wife on them, why would I put anybody else on them? Well, I was on the full-time faculty at St. Louis University in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and I had recruited a team, actually. There were 6 of us initially. 4 of us continue to work together to this day. Wow. So we got involved, and we discovered literally this standardization that I'm referring to, and that all of a sudden that gave us a common language and made teaching much easier. The women were able to understand much better what was expected and what they would see and so forth. And then, as a gynecologist, it was natural for me to want my patients to chart their cycles. And so the standardization was developed about 1977. By 1991, 14 years later, I had accumulated a lot of information about the way these cycles tracked in various types of problems that women might have, whether it's recurrent miscarriage or infertility or abnormal bleeding of one type or another, polycystic ovaries, a whole variety of different conditions. And so I wrote a little book called The Medical Applications of Natural Family Planning. This was in 1991, and the subtitle of that book was A Physician's Guide to Naprotechnology. And the word Naprotechnology means natural procreative technology, and that was the first time we introduced that term. And then in 2004, we published a definitive textbook on the medical and surgical practice of Naprotechnology. It's a 1,200-page medical textbook, really written for physicians and accumulating all the research that we had done. We'd done a lot of research, and all the data and all the significance testing and all this thing that we could do. So, and now more recently, we're publishing the Naprotechnology Revolution, which is for the lay public. And we want to get the word out to them more and more, because the medical textbook was really written for physicians, and we did that on purpose because we wanted to have the research out there. We didn't want to do like the Atkins people and write the lay book without the research. So we did the research first. Of course, the research is ongoing, but still there's a lot of foundational research to this now. The women will make observations of what we call biological markers of their menstrual and fertility cycle. There's really two cycles going on at the same time. A lot of times in everyday thinking, we only know about the menstrual cycle because of the menstrual period, but there's also a fertility cycle, and the fertility cycle is identified by seeing a typical cervical fluid that's discharged around ovulation time. So we teach them how to do this, and they start charting it. And you'd think, just thinking about it, that wouldn't be too earth-shaking, but it's just amazing to me. Women who have never been taught this, I mean, they don't know a thing about it, all of a sudden just their eyes light up, and they finally figure out why their body works the way it does, why these events these events have been happening. It's not like they go unnoticed, but it's just nobody explained it to them. So there's a real beauty in the joy that they receive from just knowing that. And then, of course, once we get the charting, we can see all of these different patterns that have now underlying disease process or normality associated with them. The people that we work with, the women that we work with, I think are some of the best educated women in the world. There's a sort of this sense of the last 20 or 30 years, people talking about being a co-partner with your doctor. Except all of the artificial reproductive technologies, and that's from contraception to in vitro fertilization to whatever else they're doing, they're really not partners at all. They're just specimens to which the doctors are. The doctors know everything. They know very little. Actually, we're teaching the women about how to understand their cycles better, and we can't do our work actually without their cooperation. So it's, and then we can explain things more easily to them so they understand. I mean, it really is a terrific tool for almost all aspects of the relationship between a doctor and a patient.
And when you say that, I would imagine you have a lot of grateful women.
Well, we do. And in fact, it's pretty amazing. I've got drawers full of letters and cards and things of appreciation. When the infertility patients become pregnant, they call them Napro babies now. And we've got a lot of Napro babies floating around. Of course, we're looking for the underlying problem, and the IVF doctors are not. They frankly could care less what's wrong. It's very disappointing in a way to see a whole profession go in this direction. Medicine became a good profession when it started looking for the diseases and then trying to stamp them out, so to speak. But with IVF, with the pill, all of these things, they're actually ignoring it, and they're either suppressing it or destroying it. And it's going to get better, incidentally, because we're just at the beginning of this. Give us another 10 years, and we may knock the whole infertility thing apart in terms of treatment. Because I was at a group one time, and it says, if you put IVF here and Naprotechnology here, which is the one's going to find a cure for infertility? Well, IVF isn't. It has nothing in it that will find a cure. Absolutely 0, 0, 0, 0, because they're not looking for the causes, but Naprotechnology does. That's what it does. It looks for the underlying causes, and it started with these charts, and we saw abnormalities, which incidentally you can only see with these charts. A doctor can't see these. Even on an examination, you can't see these things. But as the women chart them out, they show up.
What goes through my mind as you're speaking is a side benefit of all this has to be intimacy for the couple. That the better they understand their bodies, it's got to bring intimacy to the union.
It absolutely does. And it's kind of funny. One of the husbands once said that if you can talk about mucus, you can talk about anything. and actually, if you think about that, that's pretty true. And one of the things that in using a natural method that it helps with couples is they are able to talk about things that most couples don't get into ever. And I think that it helps establish a relationship as a much more strong relationship. It kind of helps bond the relationship. Whereas with the pill, there's usually somebody, one or the other, but it's often the woman who has a certain amount of regret, maybe some degree of distrust or other negative feelings, because they're the one that has to take the pill. They're the one who has to suffer the side effects. They're the one who have to put themselves in this position, and her husband's getting off scot-free, so to speak. It's just not a good relationship, you know, it's not a good relationship. We just kept following the leads that we were given. We also have our most advanced training program is to train obstetrician gynecologists and also the surgical part of this. So we just graduated 3 who took a 1-year fellowship here full-time, and they're at various places around the country now. And this is a new program that just started again about 4 years ago, something like that. And our goal is to have these Naprotechnology trained surgeons, which are surgeons that are taught how to do reconstructive pelvic surgery and not get a lot of scar tissue and adhesions from it, which is what everybody's afraid of when you do surgery. So we've developed a lot of those techniques. But we actually have 18 other training programs now that are developed. They're sort of clones of our training program. They're using the same core curriculum, the same audio visuals, everything. And these programs are actually, they are run by fertility care educators who are another year advanced in their training from a fertility care practitioner. And they are the ones who have taken it to all 4 corners of the world. It's just amazing to me what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years even with this work. I never thought it would happen in my lifetime.
Are resources one of the limiting points at this point in time to be able to train more physicians?
Oh, resources are a huge issue, not just for the physicians, but for all of our training programs and all of our, we're sort of two organizations, and the study of human reproduction part of it is a nonprofit organization which can't run without people being generous and wanting to see this happen. I mean, I'm very committed to the principle that if we're ever going to have a culture of life again in the United States or in any place in the world, we have to start converting the doctors back to that. And Naprotechnology is absolutely a way we can start doing that. We need more resources here locally. We have to expand this facility that we have. The 3 fellows we had last year, for example, were all in an office about 10 by 10 feet, all 3 of them. Now they were great and they didn't complain, but it was tight. And most of our other spaces we would like to build a conference and retreat center, an outpatient surgical center, probably expand this building so we have better office space for the doctors and other people we participate with. It's a several $million type expansion that we're working towards, and we just believe that there has to be a facility, something like this, long term, not just while I'm here, but long term, so that we have this kind of training available and can build other programs around the country as well.
And you know, Dr. Hilgers, when you say that, what strikes me immediately is the satisfaction you must have of being able to help your patients.
Well, it's almost hard to describe because the degree to which they are appreciative and grateful goes beyond probably anything you could, in your own mind, imagine. When people go into medicine, one of the reasons they go into it is to help people. They also go into it because it can be a satisfying profession because you are helping people. But in obstetrics and gynecology, we've gotten to the point where we really just created a culture of death. And it's painstaking for a lot of doctors to go every day, day in and day out, just writing birth control pills and referring for whatever. And in our work, every patient who comes in, they have a chart. I've got to look at it. I've got to analyze it. Then we enter into a discussion about it. We have implemented therapy that's specific for them. We're not destroying anything. We're not suppressing anything. We're finding underlying causes and we're treating it. And these women who have sometimes suffered for years and years and years with bad pain from their endometriosis or severe mood swings because of their hormone levels or postpartum depression, which we have treatments for now that really work well. They are so grateful. They've been to so many other doctors who just either laugh at them or ridicule them or give them put down comments. They are just so anxious to be here and so appreciative. And of course, from a satisfaction point of view, I mean, I just love going to work, basically. I mean, I'm getting old, but I still love it. I mean, the people that get hurt the most are the children. And you see a lot of things happening in young people now, some of which is really terrific. I mean, I just can't believe how some young people even survive all of this. But at the same time, there's a lot of other pathology that's existing now in our young people, and they don't have good parenting. The fathers are gone, and, as a father of five children, 4 of which are boys, I mean, I know they need a father. A mother can't do the things of a father. And while I have a lot of appreciation for what they can do and they do in difficult circumstances, these boys really need a male figure in their life, and when it's not there, you're really stuck. I mean, these kids sometimes just do bad things, and we're seeing all of these things happening in our culture now, and so I mean, somewhere along the line, we have to have a revolution of values. We have to take a whole new look at how we're doing things. We have to put this all back together again.